How does the track limits penalty system in the F1 2021 game work? Well, I was inspired to make this video by the recent F1 esports qualifying event, which was around Hungary, and I was sort of sweating away, not really expecting to qualify for it, but still just trying to do my best. And I noticed that you were able to leave the track and not get a penalty sometime. Nah, we're a couple of tenths down on where we have been here. I've used a lot of ERS to try and get in his DRS range and push too hard through there. I'm going to see if I can keep it legal. I can. Okay. That's how you're quick then in this event. You gotta play with the track limits and hope you get lucky. Not very fun. Now, I've discovered this before, and what I thought it was before was if you're about to leave the track, if you just lift off the throttle, sometimes you could not get a penalty. Never really knew more than that, never really did any more research, and never really managed to fully figure it out. But today, I've spent several hours on the game, repeating the same corners over and over again, sort of 30, 50 times per corner, just doing them over and over and over again, to really try and figure out what is going on. And I've done some analysis, so hopefully I can shed some light on this topic. Now, as I said previously, I thought it was a case of lifting the throttle as you left the track, and then you were okay. And it seemed quite consistent that way. So if I was running a bit wide, I would just literally I'm going to go off the track here. I'll lift the throttle back on it, and then I'm fine. As long as I'm lifted when I leave the track, I'll be okay. Turns out that is not how it works, but I will show you exactly what I mean. First of all, let's just watch a clip here of the turn 4 at Hungary, of me going clean off the track. So quite a nice line. I just about hit my apex, clean off the track, off the throttle, rejoin, no penalty. For that, you can see now why I think it. I mean, look how far off I've gone here. Hugely far off, and still no penalty. So clearly I was thinking, there must be some loophole in this penalty system. There must be a way you can really gain an advantage. Let's now watch a clean lap. Go for the same corner, so doing the exact same thing, but just keeping it just about within track limits. Pretty similar stuff, to be honest, not too much different, but just keeping it clean just for reference. Now let's watch I guess a dirty lap, a lap where I do get a penalty. So again, exactly the same thing, coming in a very, very similar line, carrying some speed, going off the track, once again lifting the throttle as I get to the edge of track limits. Lifting, in fact, all the way, no throttle at all, the whole time I was off the track, but I get a penalty that time. This is the point where I start to realise, it's not as simple as I thought. It's not just a case of it monitors your pedal, your throttle pedal inputs, and if you're off the throttle, it doesn't give you a penalty. So this is when I had to do a bit of a deeper dive. And those 3 clips you just saw there, I'm now going to put them side by side so we can get a really good speed analysis of exactly what's going on. And what I discovered by doing this is that the penalty system is simple in the way it works, but sometimes simple is best. What I believe the penalty system is entirely based on is time advantage. That's it. How exactly does this work? Well, what the game does is it looks at as soon as all 4 wheels leave the racetrack, and the racetrack is defined by the white lines at all points. You may not agree with that, but I'll get into that in a little while. Once all 4 tyres are outside the track surface, it logs that point on the race circuit. When you rejoin the race circuit, wherever that may be, doesn't matter, you could do half a lap off the track, doesn't matter, wherever you rejoin the race circuit, it logs that point. And what it does is, I believe it does, is it takes a reference time, which I believe is probably based on the AI. I have tried this on lower AI and it doesn't make a difference. I've tried 20 AI and I could do the same speed off the track. It bases that distance on a reference lap. So it's basically an earliest time of arrival, similar to how VSC works in real life. So from A to B, you should get to B no sooner than whatever the reference time would be in this case. And that's it. It's simple in the way it works, but that means it's theoretically pretty bulletproof, actually. So you saw a minute ago the clip where I went miles off the circuit and still didn't get a penalty, and you would assume, well, I've gained time. Actually, it turns out I didn't. It turns out my valid lap, which was kept within the track limits, was the same time. It was identical. It's hard to know, obviously, exactly what's what, and it's also, I don't know the exact reference time that they used, but the time was identical. There was actually no lap time gain. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean there was no advantage gained. You know, when you're battling, there's certainly advantage to be gained. Also, I think one key flaw in the system, which I'll show in a minute, is to do with momentum. So I did another test then at turn 6 at Hungary. So just moving on a little bit. Again, I'll show you all 3 clips. First of all, the clip where I do a massive, huge cut and get no penalty whatsoever. That was a huge cut. It looks like a lot of time has been gained, but as we learned in the previous clip, probably not. Then let's look at the valid time. So again, just for reference there, just running through the valid time. Pretty good sector. I was pretty happy with that one. And then the lap where we got a penalty. So this is the absolute slowest I've been while also getting a penalty. So very similar, we thought, to the lap that was legit. But that one actually gives me a penalty. Only a warning. You can get up to a 10-second time penalty, depending on how much time you gain with corner cutting. But that one was only a warning, interestingly. So what are the difference between these efforts? Well, again, we find exactly the same as before. Actually, when I cut the corner and didn't get a penalty, that was actually slower, and by a fair chunk of time as well. By I want to say it's something like 2 to 3/10 slower, quite a big chunk of time slower overall from A to B. And then the time when I did actually get a penalty for doing this cut was actually slower again. Now, this is where I started to get a bit confused in the testing process, going, well, how does that make any sense? I've just recorded the time that's slower, yet I've got a penalty. Maybe we're starting to find some inconsistencies here. Maybe we're starting to find that the game penalty system can be exploited. But actually, it turns out no. Because I'm measuring from a point on the track to a point on the track, which factors in the entire corner, is the reason why I'm able to go slower but actually get a penalty. When you measure just off the track, the point that I leave the track to the point that I rejoin the track, I was actually a little bit quicker. But then the key difference is I had much less momentum when I got a penalty. So I was able to go quicker without getting a penalty because I shaved off more speed earlier. I was spent a bit longer off the track, but then carried more momentum onto the track, which is the key way where it could be possible to exploit this system purely on momentum. But I will say at this point, I'm very impressed with the system they built. It's very simple and it does the job. It's literally time gain. If you don't gain any time, you don't get any penalty. Perfect. As I said, though, a couple of caveats to that. First of all, momentum. So in this exact example of Hungary turn 6, if you get it slowed down really early, lose all the time you need to gain. So you're not going to gain any time going from just A to B, where you left the track versus where you rejoin the track. You haven't gained time there. But then you carry loads more momentum when you rejoin the track. More momentum, key point being here, more momentum than you would have had with a valid lap. You could theoretically still gain some time. Now, I will admit, I didn't actually find a time when I was able to do that, but it is absolutely clear to me that it doesn't factor in momentum. The penalty is applied the second you rejoin the track, regardless of your momentum. It's just based on the amount of time it's taken you from get to A to B, and if it's faster than it should be, you get a penalty. Simple as that. Another thing you might be wondering to yourself is, well, Alex, no, because this doesn't make any sense. Corner cuts are a lot more sensitive than corner extensions. And you're absolutely right. This is something I found myself as well. If you do a minor cut, you're a lot more likely to get a penalty than if you do a minor extension, because you can just lift it and you're okay. If you lift while you're doing a cut, you tend to get a penalty. Why is that? Well, again, because it measures A to B. If you do a corner cut, you've actually shortened the amount of time you're doing. So you need to slow down quite significantly in order to not gain any time compared to the completely legal lap. So when you're doing a cut, you're shortening the lap, making it easier to gain time and harder to avoid yourself gaining time. When you do a extension on the exit of a corner, you're actually lengthening the lap. You're going longer around the lap than you otherwise would do if you kept it within track limits. So as long as you're not carrying a whole load more momentum and overall you're going faster than that reference lap from A, where you left the track, to B, where you rejoin the track, as long as you're not going that much faster at that point, you're a lot less likely to get a penalty, which is why it's a lot easier to get a corner cut penalty and a lot harder to get a corner extension penalty. I always thought there was a difference in the penalty system. Again, no, it's simple and it's beautiful in its simplicity. Now, to test this theory, I decided to go onto the Monza circuit. And on Monza, you can get a penalty on a start-finish straight. Obviously, you're full throttle. There's a nice big wide bit of track which you can leave the track and rejoin. Now, first of all, I tried this completely full throttle. Just a normal lap, completely full throttle, overtake ERS on even, left the track, rejoin the track. Sure enough, a penalty. Exactly as expected, I've left the track and I've rejoined the track. So clearly, by my theory, I was going quicker than the reference lap at that point. So I've left the track, rejoined, and I've gone quicker from A to B compared to the reference lap that they've set somewhere in the game, probably based off quite a high-level AI. I then tried slowing down way before this point. So I'm slowing down on the circuit. Now, the key difference here is that I'm going to still be full throttle off the track. So remember, my initial theory was that it was based on throttle inputs. And if you were full throttle when you're off the track, you get a penalty. My Monza example, I'm going to slow down before that, and then I'm going to be completely full throttle when I'm off the circuit, doing the exact same off-track, track extension, whatever you want to call it. And this time, I do not get a penalty. No penalty for me because I'm carrying less momentum. To me, That is absolutely conclusive evidence of my theory. Again, this is a theory because I can't see any of the game files. I haven't spoken to any developers about this. I don't know for an absolute fact, but I think with the amount of testing I've done and the amount of evidence that I'm able to provide to you guys, it is absolutely clear to me that it is based on lap time gained, and it is based on some sort of reference lap which is hard baked into the game. I don't know, this could be a driver driven lap, but I imagine it's a lot more likely it's a lap based on, I would suggest, 100 AI. Guesswork a little bit, but I would suggest it's based on 100 AI, whatever speed they would do from the point that you left, whatever time they would do from the point you left the track to the point you rejoined the track. What time would AI do? Let's say it's 5 seconds exactly. If you take longer than 5 seconds, no penalty. If you take less than 5 seconds, you get a penalty. If you take much less than 5 seconds, you get a bigger penalty. So if you took 2 seconds, you're going to get a huge penalty, a 10-second one. If you're only half a second quicker, you might only get a warning, or you might get a 2-second penalty. It is variable. Hopefully, that makes a lot of sense. It's been a bit of a technical video, this one, but a lot of my videos do tend to be. So if you did enjoy this one, don't forget to subscribe. You always get these kind of analysis sort of videos in my content. And let me know down in the comments if you agree. If you've got any other examples that you think might perhaps disprove my theory, or if you've got your own theory as to how exactly the penalty system works. But as I said, I'm actually impressed. It's beautiful in its simplicity. If this is the way it works, which I do believe it is, because you can't, in theory, you can't gain, again, momentum. You can gain a little bit, but that is very hard to police. If you start to police momentum, that's when you start to introduce vagaries into the system, and you start to potentially put penalties where they shouldn't be. But a pro tip for you, if you are going to go off the circuit, if you run wide on the exit, just lift. Don't gain time, and you'll be fine. There you go, guys. That's my pro tip for today. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.